emergency for the first time in about...
This is Jim, and
receiving this message. We are Ken Jennings and John Roderick. We speak to you from our present, which we can only assume is your distant past, the turbulent time that was the early 21st century.
Fearing the great cataclysm that will surely befall our civilization, we began this monumental reference of strange and obscure human knowledge. These recordings represent our attempt to compile and preserve wonders and esoterica that would otherwise be lost.
So whether you're listening from an advanced civilization or have just reinvented the technology to decrypt our transmissions, this is our legacy to you.
This is our time capsule. This is the Omnibus. You have accessed entry 093.SS0510, certificate number 29277. Allan Bakke, MD.
Help me raise my black nation, reparations are due. It's true. Caught up in this world, I took advantage.
You and I originate in an interregnum. We get to say interregnum.
Love that word. I say it as much as I can.
Incorrectly.
That's not true. What are the two kings on either side of the time that we occupy?
We were born in the time that we thought was clearly just called now and forever, when race in America, if not solved, had been addressed with kind of a broad consensus of what the answers were. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, yeah, it's funny. I was born in 1968, right? And that was a time of great racial upheaval. And I grew up during busing, and I grew up during the time when the news magazines were always publishing 5-page photo essays of Detroit on fire and New York bankrupt, and then Reagan and Bush.
Oh yeah, not me. Now you finally got to my lifetime. Thank you.
Reagan and Bush then, like putting out ads where black people's faces were artificially darkened in order to scare white voters. And then the 90s, where in response to, I don't know, culturally you would say what was Chuck D? Maybe changed the conversation.
I think Bill Clinton put sunglasses on Arsenio Hall. So important.
He played the saxophone.
He played the song that really Black America loves. Hound Dog by Elvis Presley, I want to say. No, but Don't Be Cruel. What was it? Somebody's going to tell us. Jailhouse Rock, something like that.
But even by then, right, there was an Arsenio Hall show. Would it was Oprah that turned the tide.
Oprah, yeah, let's say Oprah.
Where all of a sudden, as a form of what would it have been called? Maybe micro reparations. There were suddenly black people in media where the primary thing was not that they were black. Oprah was the biggest woman in show business, and the fact that she was black was clearly a big part of it, but it wasn't the only thing.
Yeah.
But I guess Richard Pryor probably, Eddie Murphy being the big breakout star.
Yeah.
There was always a
Michael Jackson was the biggest musician. Eddie
right.
Murphy was the biggest movie star. Bill Cosby, was the biggest TV star.
But when MTV started, they didn't play black artists.
Right.
And then David Bowie jumped in and read him the Riot Act. But yeah, by the 90s, it really felt like, oh, this is what integration looks like.
And I would, honestly, start further back.
Okay.
Even though everybody's, still worked up about busing or whatever. There's a broad period after the peak of the civil rights movement when it's just kind of, there's basically one policy platform that seems viable for America.
Which is everybody together.
Yeah. And it does not include the ghosts of segregation. The Nixon White House is as avid about pursuing equal opportunity in the workplace and venues like that as the LBJ White House.
I guess you
still had Birchers off
right.
somewhere talking about how Dr. King was a commie dupe, and you still had future Federalist Society weirdos smoking cigars and dreaming about repealing the Voting Rights Act.
But Morgan Freeman was on Electric Company.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Sesame Street was colorblind. Multiple generations grew up kind of thinking it's going to be okay.
Yeah, right.
And
although,
and there's a party line. There's a national party line that's part of our public consciousness about racial equality. And it's really a baseline of post-civil rights America.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, when I think of the 1970s, I still think very much that like disco was black coded. New wave was white coded. Like there were
all true.
Yeah, there was still very much culturally, but the Carson show was integrated. Like it was gradual. It was a process.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect. Like
Yeah.
it was tokenism when there was one black character, a black troop member on SNL, and so forth.
Benson was a breakout hit, but he was a butler. Well, The Jeffersons is a perfect example, right? Like The Jeffersons was the breakout show from All in the Family, but he was.
They should get their own loudmouth Archie Bunker, and now there's a white one and Archie Bunker of color.
He was rich, but he was also rough.
Yeah,
right.
He was still, he was still from the neighborhood.
It was really Cosby who was rich and also cultured. Like all that would have been too threatening for a 70s audience.
Yeah, the Jeffersons didn't have like Zulu masks on their mantelpiece. There was no kente cloth on the Jeffersons. And if there was, somebody would have made a joke about it.
I mean, we're referencing all this stuff, all these media properties.
Yeah, now kids will understand because we're talking about the Jeffersons. We finally brought it to something people will recognize.
But I think I'm referencing them at least because having lived through it, it all felt very real. And I remember each thing being touted as a victory and feeling like, oh, these are the steps.
This is the arc toward justice.
Yeah, right.
And it's interesting how quickly the retrenchment happened. And it really, I spent a lot of time thinking about like, was it just a mask all along over kind of a deeply racist country in a lot of ways that people were forced to pretend that the Overton window was not where it was? Or did something happen? Like, facilely, did the president being black just make a lot of white people lose their minds in a way that they would not have seen 20 years ago?
I don't think it was a mask, and I think that narrative is bunk, right? I mean, I think it was real because I was one of the millions and millions and millions of people that were like, yeah, fucking A, this is awesome.
Gen X is super duper mega now, but like it didn't feel like that when we were kids.
No,
not everybody was a secret racist.
Well, and I think a lot of MAGA people now would really say like, I'm not racist. I just, this is the problem with MAGA, right? They're always like, wait a minute, you're not deporting Jose. He's the best cook in town. Like, we love him. What are you doing?
Where am I going to get pupusas? I didn't vote for this.
We're just talking about the other ones, the murderers,
exactly.
not our great friends, these people that we've grown up with.
But think about the difference between that and say 20 years ago or even 40 years ago, where nobody would have been like, immigration is inherently bad because we need to preserve the fatherland for the vote.
Right.
That was not a mainstream idea that could control three branches of government, right? And now it's actually like, it's kind of the law of the land, right?
What was the moment that I first heard somebody say, white culture is in danger?
Right.
Like white people are in danger. Well, it's the demographics of...
That's the other theory.
We're no longer a majority.
Is it the replacement theory catching on? Just the idea that the more white people look around and think, well, now it's not just the one family of color down the street.
Right.
Now it's like, what if I'm the last generation of a white America?
I've told you this anecdote, right? When I asked my mom and dad, when my dad was 87, this was 15 years ago, I asked my mom and dad.
He's now 102.
He's now 102, or he would be. But I asked them both, like, you lived, let's separate your life into two halves. From the time you were born until you were 40, and from the time you were 40 until the time you were 80. It really bisects American culture in the sense that he turned 40 in 1961.
That's the 60s.
He lived through the war, but also he was born in a time when cars had wooden wheels and planes were made out of fabric.
Planes were made out of old wooden wheels from cars being recycled.
And then he's living in a time when jet airplanes are flying across the ocean in 5 hours. And both of them said the greater change in the country came in the second half of their lives. And my mom said the biggest change by far, and you'll never know this unless you lived through it, is that now little black girls and little white girls walk down the street holding hands. And we all imagined ships that could fly to outer space in 1940. That wasn't hard to imagine, but it would have been inconceivable if you had said a little Asian girl, a little black girl, and a little white girl would all be friends and not.
Our grandparents, and in your case, your parents,
that's right.
were super duper mad when Truman integrated the military because they just couldn't imagine that. Of course, I'm not a racist, but that's the kind of atmosphere where you can't have that kind of mixing. You need the professionalism and collegiate. They all had just reasons why they just could not imagine things like that.
In my parents' defense, they were both civil rights activists. But yes, the town my mom grew up in,
sure, they
were racist against Catholics because there weren't any other people to be racist against, right? They'd never seen a Jewish or a black person, but so
it was disappointing, but they had to take it all out on the Catholics.
Yeah. Irish and Italians, those were the strange intruders.
So the journey from segregation and Jim Crow as just kind of being a de facto, of course, this is how America will always be, to our generation of, well, of course, America will always be the opposite of this.
Yeah.
Has been troubled.
How could we roll it back? That's what's so crazy. In 1997, we're just like our parents in the 40s. How could this not be what's already happening?
Records I still think of as new came out while the president was black. And I mean, that's now almost 15 years ago, but still, to me, that's like our era. And boy, what went wrong? It's kind of puzzling to look at, and an interesting test case. Let's go back to 1961. Speaking of
let's set the Wayback Machine to 1961.
Speaking of the waning days of segregation, President Kennedy has just won the White House. It hasn't been that many years since Brown v. Board. Integration is starting to happen nationwide, but the South is dragging its feet.
Yeah.
At the inaugural ball for the Kennedy ticket in Texas, in I think Austin, Texas, Lyndon Johnson, now the Vice President-elect of the United States, is working a receiving line, and he sees a young black attorney by the name of Hobart Taylor Jr. And LBJ, being part of the Texas political machine from way back, knows everything about everybody, and he's like, oh, I know his dad. His dad is a prominent black Houston businessman. And so Johnson goes up and starts chatting with this young attorney. In fact, Taylor's there with his wife Lynette, and a little bit of historical trivia is 4 years later at LBJ's next inaugural ball as president, he actually dances with Taylor's wife Lynette, kind of making history.
Right.
The president is dancing with a black woman at an inaugural ball. Again, something that your mom's townsfolk would not have predicted.
Right.
In
such a short amount of time.
Exactly, so quickly. Seeing that Taylor is a sharp young guy, Johnson invites them to meet because he and the President Kennedy, President-elect Kennedy, have already been talking about, as part of their civil rights plan, an executive order calling for non-discrimination in the workplace. Start to sharpen the teeth on some of this stuff.
This is pre-Civil Rights Act.
Yes, pre-Civil Rights Act. It's even pre the inauguration. Eisenhower is still president. Oh, no, wait, it's the inaugural ball. It's possibly hours after the inauguration. Eisenhower's on a plane somewhere. And within a few months, one of Johnson's primary legal advisor is Abe Fortas, who would soon be his Supreme Court nominee in a few years. Fortas has drafted Executive Order 10925, which deals with non-discrimination in the workplace. It's long and wordy, whereas a long American tradition of equality and opportunity for all requires an equal level playing field, and whereas it's one of these, and it's kind of toothless except for defense contractors, as so many of these things are.
Right,
that's where the government really has hiring and firing power. So if you want to make planes or put rivets in planes, here's some stuff you should know about your workforce. And the upshot is, you can't discriminate on the basis of race, color, creed, etc. But it's a little more pointed than that. It really is like, and you should be taking steps to make your workplace look more like America, so that all Americans, in a patriotic way, have this opportunity at a good living.
But this is one of those things that I think a lot of people maybe don't know or calculate, which is the federal government is limited in its ability to enforce these laws in the general public. They can threaten military contractors and say, we're not going to give you this money or we're not going to put you in the list. But they don't really have enforcement power to go to a restaurant and say, you need to hire so many people. And you wouldn't want the federal government to have that power.
I mean, nowadays, executive orders do have a lot more power than they used to.
A lot more power than
because
they
the
used
Supreme
to.
Court will roll over and Congress won't bat an eye.
Right.
At least in our present moment.
But at the time, and in a functioning democracy,
you read this thing and it seems very lofty, but you're right. Like, really all they can do is say, hey, this handful of defense contractors really should be, like, why are there no black people on the assembly line? Like, that's really all they can do.
Right.
And Fortis already has this thing drafted, but they call in Hobart Taylor just to, like, why shouldn't a young black attorney have some eyes on this?
There you go. Why don't we put one black person on?
This is the early idea of racial integration is, well, there should be one black person on the Enterprise.
Right.
There should be one black person on SNL. See how well it's going?
Yeah.
And Taylor, there's a part of the executive order that focuses on what they're calling active recruitment. Like, it's not just enough to say, well, we didn't get any black people, so we hired Bob's 3 Polish friends again.
Right. This is pre-affirmative action.
Well, that's what happens here. The phrase is active recruitment, and Taylor says we need a better name. And Taylor pitches affirmative action, which everyone in the room loves because it's alliterative.
Right.
So this guy who LBJ just saw at a party basically invents the affirmative action as a meme and as a buzzword.
And it's one of those instances that we see throughout history where the positive word, like, you don't want a negative word.
Yes.
Right? You don't.
Active recruitment sounds good.
Yeah. You're not anti-abortion, you're pro-life, right?
Yes.
It's
You're not even anti-discrimination. You're certainly not anti-white worker.
right. Anti-discrimination.
You just want an
right.
affirmative action. Isn't that nice?
It's sweet sounding and it's positive.
And in fact, it stays kind of positive and uncontroversial. As I've said, this, the Civil Rights Act and subsequent legislation only increases the power of this idea that the federal government should be keeping an idea on states and even private employers to make sure that, and other institutions, neighborhoods, real estate, that there should not be, the discrimination should be outlawed. And in fact, we should be actively looking for people who are dragging their feet.
And people weren't upset about it because there were still plenty of opportunities for white guys that got C+ average in college to find a good engineering job.
Well, that's exactly what happens in the story. Ever since Brown v. Board, the front lines in a lot of these tussles over racial policy have been in education.
Right.
And
housing.
For sure, housing. Although I feel like that's one where, general white America woke up, like, literally in the Biden era to a lot of the history of redlining and stuff.
Sure, didn't know anything about it, right? They were just like, well, of course, the black people all live in one neighborhood because it's where the black people live, right?
It's where all their fun businesses are. And it took all white people listening to whatever the podcast was.
I remember
redlining.
There was an article in the Seattle Times in 1995, long article, calling out redlining in Seattle. It was the first time I'd ever heard of it and blew my mind. And then in the article, they were like, and it lasted until, some like ludicrously recent time.
Yeah. The bank still had this regulation until and it was a year that starts with a 2 in some cases.
It was a time when I lived in that neighborhood, right? It was everything south of Madison. And but that was mid 90s, like, good reporters were digging into it.
And the question just becomes, as all these issues you've been talking about, integration of public schools and then busing, like, do you need affirmative action? Do you need active recruitment in busing? Is it not enough to just let the market make inner city schools better? What kinds of, and again, Democratic and Republican politicians kind of, are all on the side of, yes, this is good policy. We got to try this. This is the legacy of civil rights.
And schools still a part of the world that is under government Like they're
Exactly.
dependent on government money.
They've got a lot more control there than they do over what a diner does, for example.
Well, and this is part of the mega. This is why Trump's demolishing the Department of Education, because ever since then, the Birchers have been like, they're forcing us to.
And on college campuses.
Right.
I can't believe college campuses have all these liberal ideas like the germ theory of medicine. That's not even a caricature. This is my completely accurate view of every right-leaning American. Sorry,
because that would have been like a hilarious Twitter character, like the cranky guy in the American flag hat.
It's so funny.
10 years
he
ago.
doesn't believe in microbes, and now he's running Health and Human Services.
Ken, would you rather eat a plate of glass shards or shop for car insurance?
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, is both not an option?
Not in the game I'm playing, but I understand that would be kind of,
I mean, it's just something to chew on, you know?
Yeah, right. Let's say this. Would you rather have your entire extended family vacation with you at your guest house, or would you rather shop for car insurance?
Well, I have vacationed with my family more recently than I've shopped for car insurance, and I'm still traumatized.
Yeah.
But I understand the premise of this exercise, which is to point out that nobody likes shopping for car insurance.
That's exactly what I was trying to get at. I hate it.
Do you like chewing glass?
No, I hate that too. And having my extended family stay here at the house, I don't think I would like that.
What's the most people you've ever had stay here?
The most number of people I've ever had stay here is one besides myself. No. Well, yeah, one at a time. So it's been a couple of different.
Yeah, you're not good at house guests then.
No, one at a time. And one of those people is often my daughter, who has a room here.
And yet you have to have car insurance. You can't just opt out of car insurance the way you opt out of house guests.
You can't at all.
It's the law.
Back in the day, you used to be able to not have it, but now you have to have it.
And people are paying too much.
Yeah, not only are they paying too much, but it's just like so exasperating. Car insurance companies try and make it seem like, it's so easy, just switch over to.
But if it was actually easy, you could immediately tell what the best rate was. So they have to. Everybody's trying to obfuscate it.
Yeah.
So that you mistakenly choose them and let them roll you.
Yeah. Generally, it's like, and it also often is like cell phone companies where they bamboozle you with like, we'll give you this for free, we'll give you that for free, and then it turns out, wait a minute, I'm paying more than I was before. Except in this instance,
how have you solved this problem in your life? I mean, first of all, you can just stop chewing glass.
I have done that. I stopped doing that a long time ago. But I also now have a great option to simplify the entire insurance shopping process using Jerry, which gives a seamless start to finish experience comparing quotes side by side.
So Jerry's just a guy who shops for insurance for you?
No, Jerry is a new app, a new company that compares quotes from over 50 insurers, and not like fly-by-night insurers, but 50 of the top-rated insurers. And then Jerry will take your personalized options and find the car insurance that's right for you.
That sounds ideal.
It is one of these instances where modern technology actually pays off.
The only one.
It's one of the very few.
I mean, I like the microwave and I like Jerry, and that's about it.
Microwave, Jerry. I guess synthesizers have done a lot for us.
Yeah, there we go.
But Jerry also provides 24/7 support, and it doesn't stop there. Jerry alerts you when prices change.
They're proactive about getting you a better deal.
They are. They're like, wait a minute, if you're overpaying for car insurance, Jerry's algorithms are constantly processing changing trends in the industry and finding you the best car insurance for you. And if you're worried about data security because of, smart web enemies.
Sure. Should I be worried about this?
Well, I mean, anytime you go online, there's enemies.
But I mean, in the case of Jerry, should I be particularly worried?
No, not only does Jerry not allow people to come into your house in the middle of the night, but they also won't sell your phone number. Nice. They won't sell it to telemarketers. You're not going to get any crazy calls.
They're not selling your data.
Nope. And this is the thing you often find with exactly this type of car insurance. Like you shop around and then all of a sudden you get
inundated with offers.
Inundated. Jerry has helped over 5 million customers find the best car insurance.
Wow.
Yeah. So here's what I'm offering you, Ken, and all of our listeners.
Why am I getting the same deal as all our listeners? Shouldn't I get a slightly...
You should.
I'm the co-host. Shouldn't I
should.
get a slightly better deal?
Well, let me tell you what. After we get off the air, I'll tell you like what
The real
my secret
deal.
Jerry deal is.
You got an under-the-table thing.
But the deal for our listeners is pretty impressive. Drivers who save with Jerry save an average of $110 a month, which is more than $1,300 a year.
Whoa.
Which is, in some cases, enough to buy a pretty shabby used car, but still $1,300 to get you into a car.
I don't think you should buy an extra car with your saved money. We're not recommending that.
I mean, that's your mentality.
You do
but
what you want.
I think you should absolutely buy an extra car just for the fun.
I think you should put it in index funds or go to Vegas.
Yeah, well, here's what I'm going to suggest you do. You should go to your local internet and download the Jerry app. Go to jerry.ai/omnibus. That's jerry.ai/omnibus. And in just a few minutes, you can compare quotes and coverages side by side from up to 50 top insurers. Jerry also has an app you can download from the App Store. This is car insurance made simple, and it's finally on our side.
Finally, on our side. It's been against Omnibus in the past, but now Jerry's working with us.
And it's been car insurance is against all people. It's equivalent to chewing glass or having people stay at your house. But now car insurance is on our side, thanks to Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
This is based on drivers who switched and saved with Jerry over the past 12 months. Over 20% of drivers who switched with Jerry found a monthly premium of $87 or less.
Ooh.
But not all drivers find savings.
And so, and the questions become, and there start to become legal and even constitutional questions here. The 14th Amendment has an equal protection clause.
Right.
How do you maintain that? How can you maintain that? The protection of racial color blindness for all Americans, and at the same time get the equal opportunity you want. The analogy is often used of a race where right before the starter's gun, some guys had weights or manacles or something on his feet all day.
Oh, yeah.
And then you take them off and immediately put him at the starting line and you say, well, look, he's starting at the same starting line as the other people. The race is fair. And other people want to remember, well, just a second ago, that runner had manacles on. So it's getting into the larger questions we still face today about where do these racial disparities come from? Like, to what degree does America owe it to all its citizens to make them up? To what degree is that unconstitutional? In what ways can you make them up? What ways are effective? What policies don't work?
It often boils down to, did your parents read to you? And if your parents' didn't read to them, and how far back do you go to rectify that?
Yeah. Even in schools, it's all just, which kids have good parental involvement.
They show up at 5 years old and it's like, well, these kids can read and these kids can't. And that's not exactly stuck in, it's not like in the Japanese model where by 7 years old, they're like, you're going to work in the rice factory.
You are not getting into the actual track.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, we kind of have that in practice just because it turns out more than any classroom intervention, it really is just who's got a good home life. Like that's who gets out.
Who's got money at home.
Exactly. And by good home life, I mean exactly. Maybe steady job, maybe both parents in the picture working.
Yeah, enough to pay for somebody to teach your kid to read.
That's right. And all this back and forth over education culminates, spoilers, in 2023 with the Republican supermajority on the Roberts Supreme Court ruling in Students for Fair Admission, a conservative activist group.
Oh, that's some language.
Yes, fair
play.
admission. Finally, college will be fair. Versus Harvard and versus North Carolina, one private and one public institution. And the Supreme Court found 6-3, shockingly, along partisan lines, that
Can't believe it.
It was unconstitutional to use race as a factor in college admissions.
Right. Which is the argument they'd been making ever since the dawn.
Yes. Yeah. And in his, I think Roberts wrote for the majority, and he has the gall to point out that, yes, there have been many, many, many cases that have said that race could be a factor in college admissions, but they were all pointing to a future utopian time when we wouldn't need that anymore. and we'd all be colorblind.
And here we are.
And here we are in 2023.
Wow.
We did it.
They're living in a separate reality.
Yes, exactly. And that is kind of the underpinning of a lot of this, and why it's hard to disagree, because some people will really say, you're telling me there are racial disparities in America? That's bull. And other people will say to them, how can you not see them?
Well, this is the problem, right, with statistics. Because statistics, there are lies, damn lies in statistics. There are a lot of statistics that tell kind of the story that you're looking to tell, right? And in some ways, if you just look at statistics, we've never been a more pluralistic society. There's never been less war and famine. There's never been less violence.
Yes.
And so...
But the wealth and income race gap is not getting better.
That's true.
It's paused where it was in 1970 or something.
Right. So this is, you can have these warring battles of statistics where it's like, well, all of the crime, 90% of the crime is black on black crime, or whatever the statistics wielding ideologues want to point to.
And it's really ugly, because the underpinning of that is like, because other races are inferior and deserve it. I mean, you can't really get around that. That's the end point of it, right? Like, what are you saying if not that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the whole well, where does inherited trauma stop?
Yeah.
Because you go back far enough, of course, everybody has inherited trauma.
And of course, everybody can argue about which interventions make sense in those cases.
Because I still see on Blue Sky and what are the other ones? Who cares? What are all the garbage sites, right? People still very much their reaction to really any news is reparations and land back. I mean, that's still, there's a side of the conversation that is still very baseline.
That's the panacea.
Yeah, right.
Like until we get to that, it's really just you're putting frosting on.
Right.
You can't address the problem without it. I had lunch with a friend once who really good friend of mine, high school, college, smart guy. I even worked with him as a programmer. He's an engineer now. And he's always, I think, thought of, I'm not one of those kind of, even though he lived in kind of suburban Utah, I'm not one of those
suburban Utahns,
red state weirdos. I'm a sensible centrist, just like my parents before me. And, because I find the left and the right both having actual ideas kind of uncomfortable and weird, I prefer to my exact distance, my exact bisecting that difference shows what a sensible thinker I am. And, we were talking about something related to this, and he was just saying, well, no, there's no systemic racism. No, that's all been debunked. It's been debunked. And I was like, debunked? He was like, yeah, all these findings on unconscious racism, it turns out they were all wrong. And he was just like happy he had read one contrarian thing or heard one contrarian podcast. And he was now delighted to believe that as an enlightened centrist, unconscious racism was not a thing.
Right.
And he could be a guilt-free white person in a colorblind America.
Yeah.
And I kind of like blew up, and he was really taken aback, because I was not mad, but I was just incredulous. Like, you're a smart guy. How can you think this? And he totally did. And he speaks for tens of millions of Americans.
It's funny because what you just said is a strange insight, which is that the reason a lot of people say, I'm not racist, is that they believe we're living in a colorblind America, right? Like some big portion of the middle, because there are the people that are like, we're going to Arkansas and building a white enclave.
But most people are like, my life is untroubled by race.
Right. And
particularly white people, oddly.
They look back to Arsenio and they look back to Denzel and they say, what are you talking about? Like, problem solved. Like, look how many black people there are wearing suits. It's a non-issue.
Look at Eminem. We did it.
So they don't think that they're racist.
Because they're not malicious mustache twirlers.
And they did want, or they claim to want, or they do want a colorblind society.
They grew up on the same Sesame Street shows you and I did.
Right.
And they just think it's all right. And presumably John Roberts knows on some level that's not true, and it's just
I don't know. The Supreme Court says stuff and you're like, are you cosplaying right now? You can't, you're smart people.
I guess when Scalia was flying those, Alito was flying all those flags, you were like, oh no, those guys really do. They're worried about fluoride. Like
super mad because
them.
His wife is out there with a flag in the yard that says like, the Democrats drink blood.
This is not actually just a pretense that they can use to enact policies that will protect their favorite ideology. They're really worried.
Did you see the Amy Coney Barrett article in the Atlantic just recently?
No.
She has sided with the other ladies on the court a couple of times.
It was like 5-4.
Yeah, and there was all of this like liberal thinker pieces where they were like, she's a David Souter. She's on the court.
We're going to get her.
And now
she's going to switch like John Paul Stevens.
Yeah, she's going to liberalize. And, I have a friend who teaches at Duke who was like super like dinner party friends with her. And I wrote him and was like, how do you like this? Because he's one of these guys that's always like, David Souter was a traitor and Anthony Kennedy too. And he's just mad at him.
Mealy-mouthed weaklings.
Because he's a Catholic, legal scholar.
Yeah, we got these guys on there to overturn abortion, and then they immediately sold us out.
So I wrote him kind of gloating, like, how do you like your David Souter Barrett now? And he was like, you people have no idea. She is true to she died in the wool. You're gonna all twist in the wind.
No, I think he's right.
Yeah,
I think these guys know who they got this time. Yeah. They got their 6 guys. Anyway, so Students for Fair Admissions, that finds that you can't even use race anymore because we're now in Roberts's colorblind utopia.
Well, they all realize, right, that Harvard will just be 94% Chinese and Indian.
I mean, honestly, that was part of the optics that helped them pull this off, is they got a bunch of Asian American parents to say, "Oh, right, well, these policies are not white supremacists. They're actually hurting us, the Asians who are underrepresented now on these campuses relative to admissions and qualified admissions." And they're not wrong.
Asian moms were the ones that pushed back against the San Francisco school board and overturned them. This is the new demographic that you didn't see coming.
Yeah, and the demographic of embarrassed progressive Asians who are like, sorry, we don't like them either.
No, it's the tiger moms that are going to run America.
And there are some loopholes in the opinion. Like, it's still okay to consider race as it's tied to character and ability, whatever that means. So somebody can write an essay being like, because I was the only black kid in my high school, or because I come from the project.
It's the lift them up by the bootstraps thing, where if you find somebody who's legitimately deserving,
you don't want to say one of the good ones, but that kind of seems like that's vibe what they're here, saying. Yeah, anecdotally,
they got 4,000 on their SATs, and they didn't have an indoor bathroom, but.
And Roberts Court also left the door open for the service academies to continue to insist on a good racial breakdown in the officer corps. But of course, Students for Fair Admissions immediately sued West Point and other service academies trying to get that overturned.
Well, because the service academies do that because they count on people of color filling the ranks.
It's all utilitarian.
And so if your officer class is all white, that's a really, really bad recruitment tool among all things.
Pete Hegseth is trying it,
I know.
We'll see what happens.
But he has zero idea what he's doing.
So schools are facing this difficult challenge now in the post Students for Fair Admissions world of we want, on a couple levels. First of all, a lot of them are genuine believers that the starting line was not fair, that there are disparities to be made up, and that universities should have that as part of their mission. And also just wanting to have a more diverse campus where people do actually meet people from other racial backgrounds for the first time that they didn't know.
Well,
when they were growing up.
Hard to overturn the canon, fill it with writing from around the world, and then only have white.
Oh, the writing from around the world is going away too.
Oh, it is? Oh, no, the writing from around the world.
The following words are now forbidden on campuses that receive federal funding, equity, immigrant, diversity.
I'm going to have to get rid of a third of the books in this room.
So, it's been a couple of years. We can now see that the 2 schools that were targeted in the case, or were named as defendants in the case, Harvard and UNC. Harvard, black admissions are now down 4% from 14% to 10%. At UNC, it's now down 10.5 to 7.8%. It worked. Fewer black kids went to good colleges. We did it.
Well, so 14% is the percentage of black people in the United States, right?
Yes, the student body of Harvard was 14. Is that right? Is 14 the current number?
Well, I don't know. That's what higher. I think of. But so Harvard was tying it to like actual American demographics?
Perhaps either by design or by coincidence, yes. And now it's down. And, the gain is coming from all over. At some campuses, it's more Latino kids, more Asian kids, more white kids. It's not It's not a monolithic thing.
Oh, wait. So taking away racial considerations is actually increasing Latino
In some
colleges?
cases, yeah. The whatever was lost to a more race blind process, it's not purely more white, but in many schools it is.
But is this going to be a thing where the University of New Mexico is a Latino school, and the university or UCLA is a Asian school? And I mean, is it going to become like that?
I mean, universities still have this idea that the campus should look like the brochure,
right? With
these happy multicultural friend groups out playing Frisbee.
Usually with one white guy kind of lecturing to a group, like standing on with a Frisbee.
Are we still doing those? Oh no. Are we still doing those?
Hey, ladies, let me tell you about college.
But campuses now have to think of creative workarounds. Like some have assigned essays which are like, how do you consider your admission to college now in the light of the 2023 Supreme Court decision in Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard? Like,
I wonder what AI is going to say when it answers those questions.
And some colleges are going to a thing where they have a certain criteria now where they're pulling the top % from each high school, which allows, and if some high schools, if say a lot of urban high schools are majority black schools, you can pull the top 4% from that school and get around the Roberts Court, but still, target a certain amount of your student body for black admissions.
This is the problem with like Stuyvesant High School in New York, where every kid wants to go to Yale, but they can only take 1% of them. Whereas if you go to school at Montana High School of the Prairie.
Luckily, all those Stuyvesant kids are legacy, so they'll get it anyway. Things will tend to work out for them.
Probably. I had a friend that was like, my kid goes to Stuyvesant and we're so worried about her admission. She was accepted to Yale, Harvard, Princeton.
Anyway, at this late date, over half an hour in, we are finally going to get to the root, the beginning of this
but you
progression
said
that led to...
You said the title of the show at the very top, so technically this isn't some record-breaking show.
I don't know. Did we say it?
Yeah, you said it, well, pretty close. No, maybe you didn't.
In 1974. We'll do it now.
Okay, go.
In 1974, here we go at the 34-minute mark. In 1974, Allan Bakke, there he is.
Hey.
Allan Paul Bakke is a white guy, originally from Florida, applies to medical school at UC Davis.
Yeah.
It's his second time applying, and he's kind of a non-traditional student. He was a pretty good student in high school and at the University of Minnesota, which he attended on some kind of Naval Naval ROTC scholarship. Unfortunately, this was the 70s at that time, I guess the late 60s. And unfortunately, the deal you made with the devil there was you would join the Navy for a certain number of years. He ended up being a Marine for 4 years, including a tour in Vietnam.
Oh.
So Allan Bakke has served his country, but now that he worked as a NASA engineer for a while.
Before applying to medical school.
Yes, and he's decided what he wants to do is continue his studies in medical school. And in the early 70s, he applies all over and doesn't get in.
Davis is in the Bay-ish area, but it's still a pretty rural
That's correct.
Community.
And it has a fairly new medical school. I think 1968 was their graduating class. When he's talks to people there, he has contacts. They think he's a good candidate, despite the fact that he's a non-traditional student now in his 30s. He applies again and doesn't get in again. And he is already mad from the first time he didn't get in because he happens to know that UC Davis, the medical school in particular, in 1968, it graduated its first class of doctors, an all-white class, just by virtue of who was applying to UC Davis to become a doctor.
And all men, too?
Probably a supermajority of men, but not all men, not in 1968. But yeah.
When did Yale allow girls in? It wasn't much. I think it was later than that, right?
I think the Real World and Road Rules were on at the time. So, no, I'm just kidding. So he's already mad because he knows that, and the task force has a fairly strict, it's called a racial quota in the case. They have a fairly strict mandate that if possible, they should admit 16 qualified black candidates every year. And somebody at the university tells Bakke, hey, you should apply again. And if you don't get in, you probably have a legal case. So somebody at the university maybe also has a axe to grind with this new, let's not have an all-white graduating class. Totally understandable policy.
Sure.
In the late 60s, early 70s, who wants to have an all-white graduating class? It's a bad look. And
In your you went to elementary school entirely in Korea, right?
there were like 8 white kids in my graduating class. That's not true.
Oh, because the majority Korean.
Asian American, yeah.
If you look at these pictures right here, there are 6 photographs of my elementary school classes, and there isn't a black kid in any of them until I moved to Alaska.
North Seattle, baby.
North
Redlining.
Seattle, that's right. It's, Shoreline, Washington.
Oh, you were in Shoreline.
There is
we had one kid bust into our Seattle elementary school.
But you're younger than I am. That's
true. We had gone from 0 black kids to 1 black kid in our 6-year age
we
gap.
had an Asian kid in our classes, but yeah, I moved to Alaska, and then my class had Native Americans and black people and Asian people from lots of different countries.
This is your college freshman year. This is what
whoa.
universities are trying to give their freshmen is like, look at this, look at the world, all coming together here at Duke or whatever.
Super blew my mind.
So this dean makes the mistake of telling this guy, you got a legal case. That dean is later fired.
Oh,
for making that mistake.
Wow.
Because when Bakke does not get in again, he lawyers up. And the case goes to the California Supreme Court, which finds, I don't know what the count is, but despite the court being stacked with like Democratic nominees, Pat Brown and Jerry Brown nominees, I think there's 3 Reagan nominees on the court.
Wait, this is what year?
70.
Right. Governor Reagan. Sorry.
Yes, Governor Reagan. Right. This is the California Supreme Court. They find that the UC Davis has violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, and in fact, their decision implies that all racial preferences in college admissions would so from a Democratic court. Even though these ideas are broadly popular, ideas of reverse discrimination are starting to take hold in the white American mind. And, today we don't really say that anymore just because it comes from a novel time when you wouldn't really think of a white man being discriminated as discrimination. You have to have a new name for it.
Yeah.
Today, the majority of white men believe they are discriminated against on some level, that they're the last true minority. And so we don't say reverse discrimination anymore, but
we used to say reverse discrimination. I remember hearing that term a lot. What did it refer to? I can't even remember.
Oh, it's not the normal kind of American discrimination of keeping out people of color. We've gone so far. Now we have reverse white people are being injured by these policies.
Okay, I remember it.
But I just think it's funny that we don't say it anymore because now it's taken for granted that white people are injured by public policy all the time.
Right, sure.
And so we don't need a special name for it.
Well, and this is the era when you first got the idea that a super qualified black person who sued was a whiner.
Yeah, exactly.
Was a complainer and should take their lumps because there was probably some reason.
But that's starting to drift now because even like crossing ideological lines, the California Supreme Court is like, well, no, you can't take race into account. And at a college, that's not Dr. King's dream. And the case, the Supreme Court finally takes it up after a lengthy delay, and it's chaos. Apparently, Harry Blackman is out for prostate surgery, so they can't get the votes. It's a kind of an all-star thing where for oral arguments for the university defending their race-based admissions is Watergate superstar prosecutor Archibald Cox. He's the lawyer for the I guess the appellants. The case is not Bakke v. California. The case becomes Regents of the University of California v. Bakke when it goes to the Supreme Court because the appellant is first, I guess, and the appellee, or is it the other way around? Anyway, it's no longer plaintiff first, defendant second. And then the Carter administration has just come into office, which means the Solicitor General is now Jimmy Carter's Solicitor General. And, Gerald Ford was no culture warrior on affirmative action, but the Carter administration is really reluctant to let this California ruling wiping out race-based admissions go. It seems like a step backwards for a Democratic administration.
Even though it was in Bakke's favor.
No, I'm saying that the other way around. I'm saying the Carter administration, it was not in Bakke's. The ruling was in Bakke's favor.
Yeah.
And the Carter administration, I think, is loath.
It's got a bad precedent.
Is loath to rubber stamp that precedent.
I see.
That's right.
Because that's a little twist, right? Like Bakke sued, won ostensibly.
Yes, but the
precedent would be
California strikes. The precedent would wipe out all
affirmative action.
wipe out all affirmative action, even though the holding involves the 14th Amendment.
I see.
The holding is that the Equal Protection Clause applies to a white student just as much as a black student.
I see.
And that's really the bedrock of a lot of this issue is how much do you think that racism can be addressed by treating white and black people exactly the same? I'm skeptical.
Oh, because, okay, so I'm just trying to understand the arc of your
I have probably explained it badly.
story. No, but I'm getting it. Affirmative action at this point is 12 years old as policy, as federal policy.
Yes.
So this is the first precedent.
Yes.
Yeah, I see.
There was actually, interestingly, there was a case at the University of Washington a few years earlier. The guy's name starts with F. I can't remember the plaintiff's name. V. Odegaard. Who, the namesake of the undergrad library, and
still around,
still president of the university. The Supreme Court eventually did find that this white candidate was harmed, but it was too late. There was no redress. He'd already gone to a different law school and graduated anyway. So the Supreme Court punted on this case.
Yeah.
So leaving this UC Davis case to be the case law. Everybody knows this is important. Everybody knows this is kind of the future of government policy on affirmative action.
What does Bakke say? Is he conscious of the fact that, he's lit a fuse?
Bakke has already been grumbling from the time of his first rejection from UC Davis that these minority preferences are screwing him over.
Oh,
so he's kind of a culture warrior.
Oh,
for the
elimination of
the undertrodden white man. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And for the elimination of these race-based quotas. And this finally, when Blackmun comes back, so Lewis Powell has been able to shore up votes for a compromise idea because nobody can get behind either the California Supreme Court was right or the California Supreme Court was wrong. Lewis Powell is able to finally shore up enough votes when Blackmun gets back from prostate surgery to say that race-based preferences are okay, but you just can't have a numerical quota. Like, what if we split the baby? This is a time when the Supreme Court would still split the baby.
Yeah, right.
Instead of just saying the Voting Rights Act, shadow docket. Who needs that high watermark of 20th century American progress?
Nobody's going to sign that ruling. That's just coming from the basement.
We're just not that interested in the Voting Rights Act anymore. So with careful politicking, Powell is able to get everybody on board for this very carefully written opinion. And then there are I think there are 6 opinions total. There are 5 concurrences, concurring dissents, dissenting concurrences, whatever they are. This is the part I agree with. This is the part I don't agree with.
Everybody wants on the record.
You've got liberal lions like Thurgood Marshall saying, no, the legacy of civil rights is we absolutely need to continue to fight back against the specter of segregation. And then you've got kind of the new conservative wing, including John Paul Stevens, who later became a reliable liberal, saying there shouldn't be, race should be irrelevant in college admissions. We should stand by the California Supreme Court here.
In 1961, when affirmative action was put in place, did they imagine a time limit? Did they think we need to do this for X amount of time and then
I should look for the earliest citation because Roberts cites a Sandra Day O'Connor opinion where she says, Bakke still applies, but hopefully one day it won't or something.
Yeah, right.
And it's unclear to me whether it's the logic of the opinion, or whether it's just kind of the nice wording that politically would skate by 5 justices.
Yeah.
But there certainly have been Supreme Court cases since then that have said, we still need this. And that's kind of the Voting Rights Act as well.
Right.
Forever, the federal government should not be telling Louisiana how to draw its districts. But boy, do you remember Louisiana? For a while, we might still have to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I think I could see in the mid 70s a certain constituency, maybe even of the liberals saying, well, this was a program. This was like a short term.
And there's a progressive case for overturning because it's the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Right. We believe so deeply in racial equality. We don't think there can be these preferences.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's a matter of philosophy that kind of cuts across ideological lines. And this is what the Carter administration has been hoping, that they'll get an opinion that says,
both sides.
Yeah, exactly. Both sides. You can take race into account. You just can't have a strict quota. That's un-American. Everybody, and when the decision comes out, everybody applauds it. In the conservative papers, it's like, Bakke struck down. He can go to college. And in the liberal papers, it's like affirmative action affirmed. And this is the statesman-like baby splitting that works. Lewis Powell successfully held off this war for 45 years until
2023.
Until the Federalist Society had a 6-3 supermajority, yes. But it held. And when you look at the case, it's interesting. Like, and I think this is kind of what everybody knows. The one sentence thing about Bakke is no racial quotas. Bakke wins.
No
the white guy wins.
Numerical racial quotas.
Right.
So you can't say 22 black people have to be
And I don't
admitted.
think you can say a percent. I think you can say philosophically we want a diverse campus. We want it to feel like America. Therefore, one of the things we consider, we still ask candidates, are you white? Are you black? Are you Asian American, Pacific Islander? That was all legal for a long time, but it went away on a state-by-state basis. Liberal California actually voted it down because of the Tiger Moms, I think, voted it down years before Students for Fair Admissions. Now, as you look closer at it, though, the Bakke case becomes kind of a lens or Rorschach test for how you see race in America. Civil rights voices at the time spoke very persuasively in a way that really does let you see Allan Bakke as kind of the forerunner of today's whiny, mediocre white people who have had a privilege for so long that they now see equality as oppression.
They saw this in 76 and were already writing eloquently about it.
Yes. So, and here are the facts. This is from a piece that Jesse Jackson wrote at the time. One of the, his legacy is a little complicated now, but at the time he was the guy that was on the balcony with Dr. King, Who else would you want saying this in 78?
I still have my Jesse Jackson in 88 presidential t-shirt.
You're part of the Rainbow Coalition.
But I can't wear it anymore because I'm too fat.
You need to get on Ozempic just so you can wear that Jesse Jackson shirt.
Yeah.
That rainbow needs a very pale pink stripe.
My cheapo doctor. Put me on Ozempic like I keep asking.
In this piece, Reverend Jackson points out, first of all, that Bakke had been denied at 13 universities total, including his own alma mater, the University of Minnesota.
Whoa.
So if you're like, look at this qualified guy being kept out by, less qualified applicants of color. This guy's 0 for 13. And Jackson points out that the numerical rating assigned to him by the admissions committee, apparently a 468, actually would not have put him next, even if the task force had not existed. Like, there was a big gap of other white applicants that had scores better than his. This was not held to be relevant by either Supreme Court, but it's true.
So he
was not next man up.
This is Jackson arguing that Bakke, despite his NASA credentials and so forth and so on, was actually not a qualified candidate.
I really want to keep my hair.
I know, now that you're on television all the time, you can't just be Mr. Bald Spot.
Yeah, if you're just balding normally, that's fine. People just make jokes at the office with drinks after work. Hey, getting a little thin on top there, Ken.
But you're on TV.
Millions of people will be like, oh, well, that's a shame.
Capital T, capital V.
He used to have more hair.
Although most of your mega fans are in their 70s and 80s.
That doesn't mean they like balding men.
No, it's true.
Now that I'm old, I really enjoy watching people bald.
Don't a lot of game show hosts, and there are hardly any left, but it used to be, didn't they just like spray fake hair like Christmas tree flocking?
They all have very nice, impressive hair. Remember Bob Barker would like host in his 90s and he'd have that beautiful white mane?
Yeah, it might be a prerequisite for being a game show host.
But the great thing about hair loss is it's one of these things that we, historically have treated as this inevitable thing. And now there's like actually really good solutions that work for lots and lots of people.
There's tons of science about it, right? Instead of, solving like a lot of cancers or whatever, we've definitely poured money into fixing balding.
There are like clinically proven things like finasteride and minoxidil that actually stop hair loss.
I'm also against balding. And every day I put my hand up there and I go, ugh.
I did it preemptively. I was like, I'm going to it's probably easier to keep my hair than to like grow it back. Although like a lot of these things do regrow hair, literally regrow hair for people in a matter of months.
But I think they also say it's easier to keep it and get started soon.
Right. Which means you don't want to wait till you're like, I'm annoyingly bald. What should I do?
Right.
Like you could act now. And one thing we recommend for people in our position is hymns. which is it's one-stop shopping. A range of prescription hair loss treatments. If you want chews, oral medication, serums. Ooh,
serums.
I want some serums.
You know, a lot of people I know now are putting serums on for a variety of causes.
Aren't they Sarah?
Sarah, right.
I don't know. You tell me, Hims.
Sarah.
Sprays. Hims just brings expert care straight to you. Doctor trusted, clinically proven ingredients, and then 100% online access. So you don't have to like figure out how to get an appointment to get your prescription. It's all taken care of by Hims.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things that would keep me from pursuing this is just the confusion of knowing like where to start, what to do. I don't want to go to a doctor specifically for this.
I know people like this who will like download an app but will never call a doctor. And why not? It's easier to look on an app than it is to like call an office and try to figure out the physical rigmarole of getting in front of a doctor.
It absolutely is.
And Hims is great. No hidden fees, no surprise costs, just real personalized care, but on your schedule, which is kind of the rough thing about doctors.
So how do I get this online access to personalized and affordable care for my hair loss?
Hims covers hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more. Just try hims.com/omnibus. Hims.com, HIMS.com/omnibus for your free online visit.
Individual results may vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil and finasteride. Prescription required. See website for full details, restrictions, and important safety information.
That's hims.com/omnibus. Thank you, Hims. So there's always other more qualified white applicants standing between him and the final spot, if that's how you're seeing it.
Right. I get it.
Number 3, Jackson points out that the task force did not actually have a strict quota. They were not given a purely racial mandate. They were just told, we need more kind of underprivileged, underserved students here. Race can be one element of that, but white applicants, economically disadvantaged white applicants had applied to the program before. And it wasn't a quota in the sense that it didn't have a ceiling or floor. Some years they could not find 16 applicants they were happy with, and so they did not send 16 applicants. Other years there were many black applicants that just came in through the same entrance as Allan Bakke.
And nobody complained.
Yeah, it was, some years there was a different racial breakdown, and the task force sometimes addressed imbalances. And Jackson also points out that when you look at GPA, it's difficult to make the case that the black task force students were any worse. You look later, and the best of them are middle of the road compared to the largely white student body. It's likely that their GPA was a little lower because Jackson doesn't make the point that they're doing every bit as well as their non-task force colleagues.
But they would be admitted to the university in the middle of the class without special treatment.
Yeah, basically many of them are excelling. The task force program has not failed. It has produced great Davis med school students. And finally, 16 out of 100 is not the black population of California, which was at the time considerably higher, somewhere in the 20s.
Oh yeah.
So it's still an underrepresentation. So this is the civil rights viewpoint, and you could really see this as a harbinger of the Trump era, kind of general feeling by a lot of MAGA voters that the real persecuted minority in America is them, white Christian men, and everybody else is getting a leg up that they keep hearing about, and when's it their turn?
Yeah, and what are the statistics of like super qualified white applicants that are denied a spot? It's always got to be B- white applicants, right?
Okay, well this is what happened to Bakke. He's a good student. Again, you can't deny that he's doing engineering for NASA because he's so interested in space flight. But his case is more complicated when you look up close. The main reason why, and even Reverend Jackson points this out, the main reason why he's been denied at 13 different medical schools
is he's a creep.
It's because he's such a weirdo. His vibes are terrible.
He's got bad vibes.
No, it's not. He's
got an eye patch.
Although that's possible. Like in the Supreme Court oral arguments, apparently he was just grousing about minority students
so he's a racist
in his interviews. Well, I don't want to say that, but he's very aware that of this what he feels is an imbalance that's hurt his outcome. The main problem is his age. He's by now in his mid-30s.
Oh.
And I guess maybe that's not super remarkable today in med school admissions, but at the time it was just unheard of.
Right.
It was just...
So this is a case of unaddressed ageism.
Well, that's the thing. And Jesse Jackson points that out. He's not even looking at the wrong kind of discrimination. But I guess that's kind of the rejoinder from a lot of MAGA types today would be, I'm the victim of so many other kinds of discrimination. How dare you simplify everything to black and white? Don't you know how hard my life has been? Because the answer to a lot of these attempts at making up for racial disparities from white people is often, oh, what, you're saying I had it easy?
Right, sure.
No, sir, that's not what we're saying.
There are
We're
plenty
saying
of-
that they had all your problems plus additional ones, but okay.
Plenty of white parents that didn't read to their kids.
Right.
But they don't get followed in a jewelry store.
But I think a bunch of white people hear about privilege and they think, privilege? Are you kidding?
Right.
Have you seen my childhood home? Like,
Right.
yeah,
I also live in a car.
exactly. Like, so you can see the beginnings of this argument that, hey, you can't reduce this to race. What about all these other complicating factors? There's so much nuance. You can't solve this stuff with a broad brush.
Sure.
And he had a above average MCAT score. If not for the age discrimination, he was a great candidate, but it was just kind of expected that med schools were for a certain kind of cohort of young doctor to be, and nobody was interested in adding somebody a decade older. I don't know why.
Did he have any story about why he wanted to be a doctor at age 35? It was just to me,
that's the least remarkable part of the story, because I've seen my adult kids just be like, boy, what do I want to do with my life?
Yeah, sure.
Like I didn't know in my early 30s for sure what I wanted to do.
I still struggle.
We've both changed jobs since we were Bakke's age, right? So whether, depending on the lens through which you see these racial issues, Bakke's case can be one thing or the other. And the same goes, interestingly, for another guy, a supporting character in our story, a man named Patrick Chavis. I hope I'm saying that right.
Chavez?
It's not Chavez. It's V-I-S. He is an African-American doctor. And in fact, he is one of, I think it's like 5, I don't know if it's 5 total or 5 that the media could turn up, 5 African-American applicants who got into Davis ahead of Allan Bakke.
Oh, I see.
Via this racial task force.
I see.
And Chavis's story is interesting. He was, he's exactly who this program is for. He was from Compton. And when he got his degree as a doctor, he went back to Compton and lived there, opened a practice in Linwood, became an OBGYN in the community. And he became, in the 90s, no less, when affirmative action started to become more and more embattled after the Reagan-Bush years, he became a poster boy for progressives to say, look what these programs do. You get this guy moving back to his neighborhood and giving back to the community.
Exactly the premise.
Right. So there's,
because he's now going to uplift.
Exactly.
Affirmative action is going to bring the whole community up.
This is good public policy. This is doing what the state of California should want it to do.
And did Backus become just a skateboarder and a drug dealer?
Well, we'll see what happened to Bakke in a second. But first, Chavis actually has a crazy arc. Because liberal publications like The Nation write fawning profiles of him. He gets name checked by politicians, just, when arguments about affirmative action hit, say, the Senate floor, he gets mentioned by name by Ted Kennedy as why these programs are in place. Unfortunately, he has a downturn at exactly the wrong time. At the same time, affirmative action has a downturn.
He becomes a black Klansman.
So does Dr. Chavis. And, well, kind of even weirder, he pivots to liposuction. I guess he's an LA doctor.
Oh, sure.
He realizes the money is not in delivering babies and doing, DNCs and whatever else he's doing in Compton. It's doing lipo in Brentwood
and lip augmentation
or wherever. So he starts doing cosmetic surgeries, and malpractice suits begin to crop up.
Oh, no.
He is able to successfully dismiss many of them on the basis of race.
Whoa.
So now you have two lenses again. It's like, is this guy,
still playing the race
card? Yeah, is this guy, to a conservative, well, this guy's just hustling. This bad doctor is able to keep his job because he's black. To other observers, it's like, well, of course he faces an uphill battle with patients and medical boards. He's a black doctor in LA.
He has to turn to liposuction
at a time when there's not very many. Well, yeah. So he's what the headlines would now call a troubled figure.
Yeah.
And it does not get any better for him. By the end, there are 21 malpractice suits against him.
Oh boy.
His career ends in bankruptcy, divorce, and his license being revoked. It's not a pretty sight. In fact, he dies young in 2002. He is shot in Hawthorne, California, just randomly in a carjacking.
Oh boy.
He went out for an ice cream cone and got carjacked and didn't come home.
Wouldn't it be nice if the anecdotal evidence for American problems didn't also always seem to have some kind of,
and yet
yeah,
that's what really struck me about both Bakke and Chavis is, you want a clear narrative from either side, and you do not get a clear narrative for either side.
And that's the problem. So many of our cultural conversations are anecdotal evidence. Everybody's got a personal story about it.
I know a guy who couldn't get in the union because he wasn't Latino. All the Dominican guys kept him out, and therefore this will shape my thinking for 30 years.
It turned out it was 3 Gila monsters in a trench coat, and what does that mean about my argument?
You wanted to know what happened to Bakke. He did enroll at the University of California, Davis after all this.
Oh, the most popular student on campus.
You can imagine the looks he got. And it wasn't just from the student body. I mean, the
administration hated his guts.
Administration hated him. They wouldn't pay his legal fees, so he had to go back to court. And eventually Davis did pay his legal fees. There were actually protests. So he's got church groups out and civil rights yelling at him as he tries to go to school. The reverse of the Little Rock desegregation thing.
Is there any picture of him scuttling up the steps while black ladies screaming in his face?
I'm sure that's how it felt to him. On magazine covers, he's called America's most famous freshman or something because he becomes what he actually was, like the symbol of the foot in the door for the retrenchment against affirmative action, not just on campuses but throughout American life. But he graduated while Chavis, for example, was happy to be interviewed from his then successful practice. Bakke, as you can imagine, shunned the spotlight. He graduated with a degree in anesthesiology. Less of a headline grabber than
oncology
than an OBGYN working in the not great part of LA County.
He went straight to Brentwood.
Exactly. And that was kind of the implication of a lot of these think pieces on affirmative action at the time. You used Chavis to show that, he's really excelling. Bakke, from what we can determine, is just an anesthesiologist at some clinic in Rochester. It was not the Mayo Clinic, although he did apparently his residency there.
Oh.
So by all accounts, like a good doctor,
did well,
not being served well by that story that he's a mere anesthesiologist. Beginning in 1986, he worked at a clinic in Rochester and refused all requests for interviews basically forever.
Oh.
He was never heard from again.
Whoa. Still alive?
No. He, occasionally he'd be contacted by the media. He would never discuss the case except to say that, yes, I'm still employed by the whatever. If the paper could get his boss on the phone, his boss would always say, yeah, he keeps his head down. He's quiet, conscientious. His patients like him. He never talks about the case. That was pretty much all they could ever get out of his coworkers.
Right.
When he died last year in 2024, I cannot even find an obituary.
You're kidding. No big piece in the New York Times?
The New York Times always, like a few weeks later, figures it out and says, Allan Bakke, famed for his 1978 affirmative court case, dead at 86.
Damn it. That's why I subscribe to the New York Times for that kind of.
They missed a trick in it. Maybe because the Bakkes kept it quiet. Like he did not want to be associated with the case, presumably because the public eye was not pleasant, as it so often is not.
Yeah, right.
But the only way I had found out that he passed is because the funeral home uploaded the live stream of the funeral and archived it. So you can watch his funeral from Minnesota. 3 Lutheran pastors talk about how devoted he was to his congregation for many years and his beloved Judy and the kids. It's a reminder not to only have clergy speak at your funeral, because really all they say is how good he made his pastors feel. Boy, when you went over to the Bakkes, he always had a kind word and cookies, and you just felt like the best Lutheran pastor in the world. So through the lens of a Lutheran pastor. That's
right.
what we learn about him.
He always had gabagool.
I don't think the Lutherans eat gabagool.
Oh, no, probably not.
They eat lutefisk or something. The court case, his claim to fame does come up once in the funeral in a fashion that I think is a little bit cringy, but maybe this Minnesota funeral is extremely white and elderly and conservative coded.
You're pretty Gen Z, so you cringe a lot.
I think many would cringe. Like the pastor says, even though he was a anesthesiologist, he never talked about the heroic nature of his work. And even though he was a civil rights pioneer, taking his med school admission all the way to the Supreme Court, he never talked about that either.
Civil rights pioneer.
Yeah.
That's that old affirmative talk again.
Yeah, it just comes down to that same idea. Like, what happens around the edges when you try to address racial disparities, and is America well served by treating discrimination against the majority the same as it does discrimination against a historically underprivileged minority?
It's funny. Usually I end one of your episodes with some sort of pithy remark.
This is it.
And then you usually come over the top of me and double pith me.
This is your chance for you don't want to do an affirmative action joke here?
I don't have any pith. It's it's not exactly ripped from the headlines, but this is like a conversation so informed by people on social media now who have so many facts at their disposal and seemingly so little wisdom.
But the people with too many facts are a pretty tiny minority of America at the moment.
Yeah,
right?
But there's a lot of people that claim to have all the facts that have a very small number of facts.
That's true.
But
if the facts don't agree with them, the facts are wrong.
The facts are wrong, or those facts get eliminated from the conversation. But yeah, like you say, there was, I think our generation still is so stunned by the fact that this all felt like settled law, and we were, it felt like we were on the cusp of being onto something else.
It was going to be okay because we were good people, and if everybody was like us, it would all turn out.
Yeah.
And it turned out that branched into two different ideas. One, like, it's fine, now we can stop thinking about race, and in fact, dismantle the apparatus that ended racism and segregation. Well, didn't end racism.
Well, I guess three ideas. That one.
Yeah.
And then we have polluted white America and we need to go back to colonial times. Or
right.
Things have never been worse. There's more racism than ever. America is a racist country, and that invalidates the Constitution, which seems to be, the other.
And I'm with you. I bridle at that too.
Yeah.
You've got to recognize the progress. But it's not the easiest time right now to rejoice in the progress.
No, certainly not the easiest time to rejoice about it on social media.
I would say on the merits as well. But yeah, let's certainly not do it on social media.
Yeah, I mean, we had a 4th of July party here, and a couple of people showed up and were like, I'm not sure if we should be celebrating the 4th. And I said, you know what? Get out of here. And they were like, no, I didn't want to leave. I want to have hamburgers. And I'm like, okay, all right, you're fine. And that concludes Allan Bakke, MD, entry 093.SS0510, certificate number 29277 in the omnibus. Futurelings, as we've discussed, even in this show, social media is a garbage fire, and you want to stay out of it. You want to stay away from it. I have been saying this for the 7 years we've been doing this show, but
often on social media, you've been saying it.
That's right.
From your many accounts.
That's right. The other day I posted something where I was like, the terrible paradox is the only place I can tell you to get off social media is on social media. And I feel like such a clown.
No, you should use your podcast to tell people to get off social media, and you should use social media to tell people the podcasts are a waste of time.
No, to listen to podcasts, to listen and subscribe and thumbs up, and also donate to our Patreon.
Because you love listening to podcasts, so you're the poster boy for that.
Well,
you just never stop listening to podcasts.
I'm a content creator, not a content consumer, and I don't. It's how God made me, sir.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah,
we need a small number of people like you.
Yeah, thank you. And and you, we're also we too are a small number of people still.
2 is a small number. It's one of the smaller numbers.
2, it's not quite the magic number.
Plus or minus 1.
But I really do feel now that so much of the content on social media is being generated by AI from 100 different directions, right? Some of it is just clearly like bots from foreign bot farms that are trying to make us mad at each other. Some of them are just content creators just trying to put as much garbage online as they can. Some of it just seems like people that, I don't know, like I see social media posts now that are like, oh, a huge helicopter crash. And then it shows some footage from like Grand Theft Auto 10.
So I can one up that. I can come over the top.
Let's go. Let's hear it.
There is AI slop of me on the internet.
AI slop of you?
Yeah, just fake news outlets being like, Ken Jennings appears in public with some mystery woman. And it's just some composite generative AI of some random person. And then AI slop about like, who is this lady? Why now? There's another one where I'm out maybe working after the flash floods in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as part of Jeopardy's giving back to the community. I'm out there lifting sandbags.
Ken's got his sleeves rolled up.
I look kind of ripped in the fake picture, which is how you know it's fake.
Well, the problem is your 79-year-old fans.
They think it's all true.
Yeah, they're like, Ken, mystery woman. Wow. I mean, those of us who know you know that you've never been to a second location with a woman besides Mindy,
whom I call mother.
What we want you to do, though, is email us. In particular, email us your thoughts about this episode from every side of the spectrum. If you were a MAGA listener, you may have punched out of this episode because Ken and I revealed our bias, although I have no idea what our bias is. But although if you want to tell us what our bias is, please write us at theomnibusproject@gmail.com. And Ken and Mindy will read it and only forward it to me if I'm named specifically in the email. If somebody's like, this email's mostly for John.
Ken, stop reading this.
John, go screw yourself.
Yeah, that's the one I send.
You can hang out with Futurelings. I think one of the best places on social media are one of the best places. All of the best places.
Of the many good ones.
Are wherever Futurelings congregate, on Reddit, on Discord, on Facebook. I don't know whether there are hashtag Futurelings on X because I've been banned from X for almost a decade. Do you see them on there? Do they Futureling you?
On X?
Yeah.
I haven't been on Twitter in
Good man.
years.
High fives. I just did a couple of shows in Atlanta and Raleigh, North Carolina. I met some Futurelings at both events.
Nice.
So Futurelings are everywhere.
I was signing books last night and a bunch of people in the Q&A wanted to know. One guy asked, when will there be a book of Omnibus?
Oh.
What would that even be?
Well.
It would be very long.
Yeah, I mean, we could have AI write it. Just take blurbs from every episode. John and Ken didn't talk about anything on this show.
It'll be a book where the main character doesn't appear until like page 150.
You can send us mail to P.O. Box 55744, Shoreline, Washington 98155. Ken, it looks like you're reading some mail right now.
Yeah, let's see. We got some, what do we have here? This one I opened even though I now see it was just addressed to you.
Oh.
Sharon from North Dakota, who does not like me because of my antipathy toward North Dakota, my famous dislike of North Dakota.
Yeah, that's right. It goes along with your dislike of Australia and Canada, so many places.
I'm going to Australia next month, actually.
Good man.
Dear John, thought you might enjoy this article, says Sharon. It's called Dream Machines and appears to be about the Bugatti.
Oh.
Or maybe a guy restoring old cars.
Cool. I do like those things.
You are going to love these
Do you
pictures.
feel like this is a love letter from Sharon? Like it's secretly like it's a magazine article that I might like, but it's really got her phone number and her
only Sharon
couple
knows.
of pictures.
Have you been leaving secret messages to your fans by leaving your curtains open or closed?
No, my fans aren't really interested in me that way.
We got a couple postcards. One from Liechtenstein. Wow.
Hey!
Doubly landlocked. Liechtenstein. I can't read the signature line. It starts with a J. Is it Jolene? Jolene?
Jolene.
Something with a J. If you're the listener who was in Liechtenstein, thank you for sending us. This is our first postmark from Liechtenstein for sure.
She has to be in the very, very small minority of people who are named Jolene and also been to Liechtenstein. You know, that's a countable number of people.
I now think it's Joshua. No, maybe it is Jolene.
I bet there have been a lot more Joshuas.
It's a mystery. Yeah, Liechtenstein is just lousy with Joshuas.
Yeah.
You can't
overflowing.
You can't swing a European bobcat in Liechtenstein without hitting a Joshua. Apparently, this Jolene and/or Joshua is on a road trip from Strasbourg to Lake Constance.
Huh? Not a very long road trip.
No,
pretty much a one-dayer.
But stop in Liechtenstein on the way.
Cool.
Possibly extending the trip.
Cool.
And this is not even signed. This postcard is the General Secretariat in Lyon, France. You lamented on a recent episode that Interpol isn't in the news, and I just happened to be working there at the time. So this is Interpol's headquarters, I guess.
Oh.
Interpol does lots of great work. The USA is still the number one donor country to Interpol. I'm not sure how long that will last.
Working at Interpol as some kind of Interpol officer, or working there as somebody dismantling the furniture?
Maybe that's why they can't identify anything. If they told us more about their mission, maybe they'd have to kill us, or maybe the postcard would self-destruct.
Right. Good.
It's also possible they did sign it, but then this postmark thing got ka-chunked over it.
It smooched it.
So now I can't read it. But thank you, mystery Interpol. I love that we have a mystery informant at Interpol.
You know,
they could just be replacing the Fanta in the vending machines, but maybe they're some kind of a cool secret spy.
I don't know if this is whether this is going to upset you or not, but we have for a long time had a futureling who worked fairly high up at ICE. And he only reached out to me, I think, because he knew
that you would be sympathetic
that at least I would take messages from some agent, some high-ranking, agent at ICE. And I was in Washington, D.C. one time and had scheduled some tweet up or whatever. And he walked up to me at a park bench, like really, really spook coated, in a suit with mirrored sunglasses, palmed me a challenge
microchip.
coin. No, a challenge coin. Maybe it had a microchip in it. And then disappeared into the bushes. And he wrote me just the other day to say, I have left ICE and now I work at the FBI. I mean, also as some kind of mucky muck.
I would say in some cases I have more sympathy for people who work at a federal agency I would like to see abolished than I do for the others. That can't have been an easy few years for that guy.
No, because he listens to Omnibus. He's not like, brr, take him out. He's 100% like, well, I started this job and then the Bush administration changed the title of my, he probably started at the
it probably wasn't
customs.
It wasn't even ICE yet, right?
Yeah, right.
9/11 did a number on that guy's career, huh? And this is from a listener named Jeff, who explains that he's been backing off his support of Omnibus lately. But wait, because
he doesn't like me.
Yeah, because you're not woke, John.
He's mad at me.
Have you thought about
being more woke?
He's been backing off his whole entertainment budget because he wants to support his local school board, which has been taken over by a bunch of anti-public education weirdos.
How am I going to complain about that?
And now his group successfully elected 2 great candidates in 2023, and now he himself is running.
Hey!
So many people have sent us old political buttons, but this might be the first guy to send us new political buttons. Jeff Nye, the school board guy. I hope we can out him on the pod. And
I really have, for a long time, since before my run for city council, encouraged listeners to run for local office.
Yes.
And I've been so gratified at how many have run and won. There are
you should keep track of the record.
Yeah, right.
Like, what are futurelings like 9-4 at the ballot box? Are they 11-10? How are we doing?
But it's kind of like the way that weird creationists took over school boards around the country. I think gradually futurelings are going to make a difference in American politics because they're all running for dog catcher and eventually they're going to be the governors of their states.
What do you think the creationist futureling Venn diagram is? Do you want them running? If you're a creationist futureling, well, you're probably not listening too closely to the show.
There are a lot of creationist futurelings because I hear from them.
I guess you can be creationist without being young earther, but I don't know which you mean.
Yeah, they're the physicists who also are evangelicals, and which there are a surprising number of hard scientists who also are Christians. Anyway,
should we issue an endorsement in the Forest Hills School District of outside Cincinnati, Ohio?
Yes.
Are there equal time regulations for podcasts? Are we going to have to let Jeff's opponent?
No.
Okay.
No, because he didn't come to us. I guess he wrote us.
Do we have an editorial board that decides who to endorse in the Forest Hills Cincinnati school board race? You and me.
Yeah, right. We're the board.
I vote Jeff without interviewing him.
Vote for Jeff.
Yeah, even though he's donating less than he used to.
If you're Jeff's opponent and you're also a futureling, write us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we'll give you a little bit of we'll give you a little equal time. What
are the odds? It doesn't seem likely, right?
Maybe Jeff has already at one of those debates kind of backstage gone, you ever listen to Omnibus? I mean, which all Omnibus listeners should be doing everywhere they go.
Sure, like give out chick tracts, but...
Yeah, if you're on a bus or something.
If you're on a bus.
Say to all the people sitting near you on a bus, hey, have you all guys all listened to Omnibus?
Speaking of being on a bus...
Oh.
That's where I was going.
That was good.
See, it's so easy. It's so easy. Here, I have this.
Thank you. The last thing I want to say, if you're on a bus, even if you're not on a bus, donate to our Patreon. It's not really a donation. It's a contribution. It's a membership. It's joining the faculty.
Dues.
Come to patreon.com/omnibus and join up. There's so much great content there that you'll be the immediate beneficiary of, to end a sentence with a preposition.
And even if you're running for school board, take it out of your kid's college fund or something.
That's right.
Don't take the wife to dinner this weekend. Give it to us.
Yeah.
Would it kill you?
The wife.
Listeners, from our vantage point in your distant past, we have no idea how long our civilization survived. We hope and pray that the catastrophe we fear may never come. If the worst comes soon, this recording, like all our recordings, may be our final word. But if Providence allows, we hope to be back with you soon for another entry in the Omnibus.